I don't even know how to get down from here. Oh, it's okay. All right. So, we are going to start our meeting off with the most challenging question on my grade levels interim has been blank because blank. Start us off, Chris.
All right. There's some polynomial operations which we haven't covered yet. That's been pretty challenging.
Okay, Darren.
There've been a couple. Translating some verbal expressions into algebraic expressions, and they're still lack of familiarity with the coefficients.
Mine was the coefficient question because I got about 8 hands up that said, what is this word?
Probably the box plot question because there's arguably no correct answer. I guess unless you, depends what your definition of about is.
From a different view, just anything that deals with explanation. Yeah, I was proctoring the 7th grade test, and I noticed that the diagram question, where it asked them to draw a diagram, I had a lot of kids saying to me, like, what do you do here? Although they were able to like arrive at a right answer, but they weren't sure what drawing a diagram of that answer would be. And I was thinking, this gets like to the work we've been doing. So, okay, so today we are going to kind of have a two-part session. The first part of, and they're related. The first part of our session is sort of summing up all of the work that we've done, thinking about debriefs and what makes them effective. So all the talking that we've done around like the key math, modeling, discussions, questioning, and then we're going to use what we came up with to help us as we have a lesson planning collaborative where we're going to be working in partnerships to hone our lessons for Monday. So part of the like thinking work that we were doing ahead of this meeting was thinking about what the teacher is doing during an effective debrief and what students are doing. And we're going to follow a pretty strict time protocol around sharing out for the teacher, sharing out for the students, and then we're going to read over the list and refine it. So right now is like a clear brainstorming time where you can essentially posit anything. We'll put it up there, and then we'll see if there's a way to refine all of our thoughts. Any questions? Okay. All right, Saxony, will you be our time professor? I will. Okay, we're going to start with the teacher.
Teachers posing questions.
This is. So we're not following the like before, during, after. We're saying like.
Throw it all out there.
Okay. Making sure that it's aligned to the key math.
In planning?
Yes. Before.
Keep going.
Teachers is leading discussion by or moderating student discussion.
I put that the teacher is monitoring student work to select models.
Discuss common misconceptions.
Possibly drawing a diagram or other visuals the students are explaining.
Sharing student work.
summing up what the key map is?
In a concise way.
Can we have that?
Sure.
I guess making sure that the kids get to a right answer.
During the debrief or during the explore?
During the debrief, so you're discussing these models, you're discussing student work that might be correct or incorrect, so arriving at a conclusion. That's like sequence. I wanted to say sequenced. Make sure it's sequenced correctly.
Anything else for before or after? And by after, that could be the apply. Go up here.
Checking in with students that had misconceptions.
In the apply?
Yeah.
I mean, into the debrief, introducing the apply, introducing the independent work.
Will you put one more minute on there? How Saxony thinks. So, presenting the apply.
Giving students an opportunity to extend beyond like what was debriefed, or I guess like in the apply, not just practicing with what we did in the debrief, but like also giving students probably at the bottom where it's like an extension, a chance to go beyond.
You're giving students something to refer to when they're doing the apply. So whether that's in their notes or some chart.
Kate may have said this, but like choosing which piece of student work you want to model or you want to share and like why. So maybe it's just and that could be either like an exemplar or like a common misconception.
Right, so there's something here, selecting like based on criteria. Okay, we're gonna flip over to the student side. So if your debrief is really effective, we're gonna go 3 minutes. What are kids doing at this time?
Monitoring, self-monitoring misconceptions.
Asking clarifying questions.
Can I tie those two together? Yeah.
Yes.
Actively participating in discussion by tracking and then adding on to the speaker before you.
I think if a debrief happens about a question that is going to be in notes, they should be correcting so that they don't have an incorrect example.
They're either explaining or like if they disagree with another student, they're explaining why the student is incorrect.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
I mean, depending on what the teacher's doing, they're taking notes.
I think referring back to their work. So if someone else is saying something, they might look in their notebook for that work, or if they're taking notes, then they're referring back to the steps that they previously had learned.
I think they need to start the like generalizing work of like how they can take the conclusions from the debrief / explore and apply them to things that are going to look different in the apply.
So this idea of like being able to bridge the explore thinking to the apply thinking
Yeah.
through generalization.
Yes.
Starting to generalize in order to bridge. I think
I mean, a lot of times they have to be ready to like restate key math, especially if there's not a lot of volunteers.
Okay. So, we've got a lot of ideas up. And right now what we're going to do is we're going to try to like refine this list and to refine the language of the list so that we can actually type it up, have it in one place, and really be able to look at it so that next week when we're studying each other's lessons in our videos, we'll actually be able to just reference the list that we made to say like, are these things happening? Which ones of these are happening like at a high level? Where are the areas where we could hone our practice more? Okay, so revisions. Anything that we can tie together, anything that we can get rid of, anything that's redundant.
I think like closing questions doesn't really need to be in there because like we have Well, like-
Discussion or
yeah, and then like like questioning in sequence. I don't know if that's questioning. That's more like answer it in sequence. But like I think there should be like one bullet point about like how you're asking questions.
Okay.
So
Like leading a discussion is asking questions.
yeah,
Okay.
but it's leading a discussion. Or maybe the sequencing of questions is in the planning part.
Okay. Would it make sense to then break it up into planning, teaching, after? Okay. Okay. So for the planning,
Deciding key math.
okay. So
Determining key math.
And then I think we could add in there like determine key math and sequence questions accordingly.
Predicting misconceptions.
oh, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna erase that yet.
yeah.
Okay. Half erased. Anything else about like knowing the work that you're gonna select or
yeah.
determining the model you're gonna use?
It's behind you. The one
Yeah.
that Lee said, selecting based on the criteria.
That was for after. But it could probably go with this as well.
Like if you predicted your misconceptions, maybe you're looking for that while you're monitoring. I guess it depends on what you're looking for.
So like your explorer has to be like you want your explorer to address the misconceptions, like a type of problem where that might come up. So I guess like that's
So you're like,
Having Jinli's incorrect work ready to go.
yes.
For example.
but you're deciding what student evidence should look like.
So knowing what student work you're looking for, whether it's
Right.
misconception or exemplar.
Yeah.
And like choosing the explore work based off of that.
Based off what you want student work to look like, or key math. I'm
Were you saying based off wanting them to run into that misconception?
It could be that. But and then it would also, I guess, have to connect to the key math.
okay. So
Based off of key math and common misconceptions.
okay. Okay. What about during the teaching?
So during the actual debrief itself.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if this is the first thing, but that you're checking for understanding around the key math.
Okay.
Sorry, so you keep the chair.
Just gonna go around you. Okay. I mean, we had like a bunch of other things up here,
Yeah.
so we can just, I mean, lead discussion or moderate discussion. Does that,
Yeah.
that falls in?
I think moderating discussion includes illustrating the ideas
With student work? Or with,
and with
Your
your
diagram,
own
yeah.
diagramming of the language that they use.
And that includes like all the talk moves that we've been discussing also.
okay, cross this out.
Just showing student work, that's crossed out.
Under diagram.
Oh,
Drawing diagrams.
drawing diagram.
So that monitoring work kind of came like in between the planning and teaching
So,
during the explore.
And also, like if you're choosing student work, that's happening there too.
okay. All right, so far all of this is crossed off.
So then you're summing up the key math and creating those notes Darren was talking about.
Creating reference or something.
We said something about, well, I guess the correcting the misconceptions. I guess would come out during the discussion.
Do you guys think that's important to put in there? In this idea of like, in the vein of like getting to an accurate answer? Like correct misconceptions to achieve accurate answer?
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's important to put correcting misconceptions.
But if you're creating a reference or like an anchor, like in that, somehow the misconception would have come up during your discussion, right? With some student exemplar that had the misconception. And then when you create the notes, like either you're talking through it or like you're just making sure like, and we'll remember to not make this mistake here.
Okay. So in the discussion, you're addressing misconceptions and presenting accurate strategy or answer. Okay. Anything else? What about presenting the apply work or like this idea of bridging from the explore and debrief to the apply?
Maybe say something connected to the key map, like, so in the apply, we're going to do this, and we're gonna make sure that we are keeping our units corresponding.
Does that capture it? Okay. And then, just for the sake of time, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm actually going to pause this discussion because we have what we need for our planning collaborative and for watching our videos next week. I still actually wanna finish this up, so I will think about how I wanna finish this up, and email that plan out to you guys, okay? All right, so right now, we're actually going to be using this planning for an effective debrief to collaborate together and present our lesson plans. So the idea is that on Monday, when we videotape your lessons, we'll be able to see the effects of good planning on the teaching. And we're gonna cut down the time, unfortunately, to 5 minutes for each sharer. But the way we're going to do it is that the process is going to be the person who's presenting their lesson, so in this case they're called the teacher in the list. The teacher is going to summarize their lesson. You can use the textbook, I have them out. And then the partner and the teacher discuss the key math concept. The teacher should be driving that discussion. And then the partner and the teacher read the current plan with a focus on the debrief. So you don't pay attention to the apply too much. And work collaboratively to strengthen the teaching of the key math concept. So the idea is you're thinking about the questioning, the sequence, student work to showcase, all the things that we already said. And then you're going to switch, and then we're going to share out to see if this was an effective practice. So partners are going to be Darren and Chris, Kate and Anthony, and me and Saxony. Okay, and the seating worked out perfectly. So you can just choose who's going to go first. Saxony, you're going to actually go a little longer than this. I based my lesson on Kate.
I can go first. Alright, so
so that we can see the group.
yeah.
And then it's all yours.
So this lesson is going to be about we're modeling the solar system. We're going to scale model the solar system in our classroom from the back to the front. So we're going to go on the center, the sun's going to be the front room, and it's actually split up into 2 days. During this Friday, students will have
You want me to move? No.
created the scale.
We're gonna go back.
Like comparing the amount of space we have in our room to the actual distance from the sun to Neptune. So starting on Monday, students will have done some degree students will have to some degree filled in this table, which creates our scale model distance from the sun to Mercury. Here's the actual distance, and they will be thinking what the distance is to Mercury from the sun in our scale model. We'll have jigsawed it out so that like maybe 4 students have worked on Mercury and Venus, and worked on Mercury Mars, some on these dates, some on these dates. And then Monday morning, the very first thing we do is share out from what group we have. So our Explorer is actually like sort of the share of these numbers and evaluating like whether they're reasonable and whether they make sense. Because what I'm trying to get at here is that eventually over here, the questions focus on which 2 planets are the closest and which 2 planets are the farthest. And then how many times farther apart are the planets here than these are here. It ends up working out that Uranus and Neptune are the furthest apart from each other. And Venus and Earth, or actually maybe it's Earth and Mars are the closest. But here's where the key math comes in. It's like it looks from the look of things like in scientific notation. So we're comparing numbers in scientific notation. That like these increase in magnitude. Right, it sort of looks linear, right? Like they all look like they're probably about the same distance from each other.
See how this misconception is not the rule?
A power of like an increase in the power of 10 actually creates something that's 10 times greater
But the truth is that you have
than the same. Than a number with the same factor. So like from Mercury to Venus, we've got an increase of about 3 times 10 to the 7. From here we've got an increase of 1 in our factor part, which we call the first part, times 10 to the 9th though, and that 10 to the 9th is a lot more powerful than our 10 to the 7th. In fact, it's 100 times more powerful. 2 zeros more powerful.
So maybe
the key math here is actually not that we need to like think of our power of 10
number 1, and then here's where some people get mistakes, but what's the actual rule?
As like as the powerful part of our scientific notation. Like that really gives us a much better sense of how large our number is. So we compare our work here. This sort of like gets our thinking going around. Like in our scale model, like things should increase in distance. Like we know that these will sit in their distance from the sun, so we should be increasing here. So like gets their thinking around that. Pretty quickly, the end of the Explorer is them actually placing these cards along the floor to show they like take a meter stick and measure it. Okay, Mercury's supposed to be 10 inches from the sun, so let's go take our meter stick and we'll place our index card there. Then they return to their
Alright, it's a little bit of I know it was really short. Switcheroo. Sorry guys.
Okay.
Moving on.
Do
you need your test?
I need to be ready in case they're
Do
ready.
you need your test?
So sometimes my plans are like and then
This week's Friday is getting bumped to Monday.
Okay.
What if your message that came out was an organizer that's like a teacher
Okay.
of like multiplication and they're writing in
So the objective
multiplication on the
for-
side, division, and they're writing in division on the side, and they have
the
like
lesson
an
is
example at
that
the bottom,
that
and
you
then you're
cross
asking
products,
them
you
to like
calculate this
compare the
term
two.
and a proportion.
What's-
So yeah, let's actually
what's
open
it
up
different
to
about the two, and they should say like, you add your exponents when you're
And they're gonna be
multiplying
using
with the same
these,
base,
like
you subtract your exponents when you're dividing with the same base.
percent diagrams. See what
I
compare
feel like there's some
percents.
sort of
Feels like
like
they're
mnemonic thing that you could do, not really mnemonic, but like
Oh,
those money
yeah.
addition, multiplication,
Yeah.
your goals.
yeah, and
Right,
division's breaking.
that's like
And
how I
like-
try to relate it.
Yeah,
And
that's
like
how I
if you-
relate it.
And if there's a
Planning on getting
power, then it
started
gets bigger even
with
quicker,
students.
just like with multiplication.
Kate, can you
Okay.
hand Karen all that stuff on the printer? Thanks. If there's anything that's not yours, I'll get it from you in a moment. Thanks.
So when this lesson happens, we will have talked about equivalent ratios and we will talk about comparing ratios.
I'm not gonna give them
And
percents.
Right.
so on this day, they're just trying
Like posing the question which is the
learning
greatest
in quicker
different
ways.
ways.
and then
I
explain
keep conveying it in the same
expecting
way,
like
like
students to
multiplying
choose this
with
one because
multiplication.
38 is larger than
And
but
the
so I'm-
explore.
okay, so this partners are gonna like in pairs
See that?
explain why they
They're
think
looking
their answer is
And it
correct.
only works if your
And
bases
then
are the
they're
same.
gonna
I think that's
explain
another
as a
big,
group.
And we're looking at this
like, do you
graph
think you would see
Okay.
it
about
as
this
like,
fundraiser.
like
So
3
then
squared times
imagine
5
the first
squared,
ones
and
we've
suddenly they
connected
have 15 to the
ratios
fourth
Introduce more
power.
percent
to
diagrams
a
and
graph.
Yeah.
So I think that's another
Um,
misconception
and
to us,
so
that like,
As you can see,
both of these, like, what's
percent diagram with
they're
just
thing
looking
that's
at
the same
they
about the rules
to
is
do
that
this
they
in fifth
only
grade.
work
So
if your
with
bases are
515, what does this tell you about
eighth grade is
calendar
right.
sales?
Right?
Um,
So here are the
And then they're
rules.
identifying a couple more points
Multiplication,
and seeing if
division.
those
So
points
then
they can see a
state
connection
them.
between
And
those.
then-
Sure.
Now they're gonna compare these
Um,
schools
They,
and
this
then
idea
So,
is like
as
broad
far
ideas of
as
like, and the
the
rules
debrief,
only work when the
and I-
bases are the same.
and they have
This-
different
they're gonna be
scales going
writing
up,
it down.
but each is
So
gonna
they'll
be
have something written down for the debrief.
100%
Um,
the total,
So when we
obviously.
get to the debrief, here are the questions that
So question
plan.
number one is just asking various
what do the
questions
table and graph
about
tell you about the
each
calendar
school.
sale? How does it relate to the ratios you found?
See them for your interest.
And then they're gonna have
Yeah.
to,
So,
and then they're
well,
gonna have work that they're
yeah,
doing
so
that's
it's a
like
little
practice
discussion
work.
about, do you feel like
Right,
it's a
right.
good
Just work around it.
So there was
Do you
like
think you'll be
fill in
able to like
300
have it could
50%.
show their work?
So they've
Is that
They
weird?
can see that matches
Like
up
in
with
your
50%.
group?
so find the ratio of dollars
Oh, we do
raised
that.
to
We do that.
calendars. How do the
And then for
ratios
Memorial
compare?
Day,
And then this question says,
You can definitely do
270.
what do they tell you about
Oh,
calendar
nice.
sale? How does it relate to the ratios you found?
How are they
It's the same
And
word.
and they're
fine.
supposed to
Yeah,
be saying
so
something
right?
like
The
Yeah.
scale
Well, I can
is
use
like
Strongest kid in that
50s.
group.
the
Watch.
table
So
or the graph
270
Far.
to find my ratios
just
by like
would be like somewhat of an estimate.
by seeing by looking at calendar
Yeah.
sold
So-
and then finding
He doesn't fit.
where
Hopefully they
that
can
line
give me something to
So
crosses
you have
that
your
point
notes.
and matches
Give
to
some
dollars
rules.
raised.
closer to 50 than 70.
Yeah, let's.
Yes.
Yes.
I guess
There's
it's
explicit
them.
language, and you're gonna be
I
like,
don't
you
know
might
this is
wanna-
they're gonna know
what
what's
team
more.
math.
Would
I
it,
think
would,
it was
are you want
something
do you want
that-
something like
Give them the
well
notes.
15
Guided
over
notes.
Yeah,
5?
like multiple, like.
I can
Yeah,
reduce
that's
that
less
to
like-
3 over
So I
1
guess like
This
and
is the
30 over
rule
10. I
here.
also
That,
noticed
like-
that I can
And here's your
reduce it to 3 over
example.
1. Do they have that skill?
And then,
Yeah,
like,
we've already talked about
they're the
reducing.
same
Okay.
because
When you're
Or
comparing
like-
two different
But I mean, as
Or-
far
like,
as
in order for the rules to
whether or not
work,
this is getting the
just
key
because they're raw
math.
numbers, but you're
So I saw the
taking
objective
Same base.
use
Yeah,
cross products
you
to
need
find
the
the
same
missing
base, and
term
like maybe the
proportion.
kids then
So
write
it's
in,
this.
So here's
you
that
mean
question
the
then.
same base.
like the sequence.
So then like, and then going
Yeah.
back to the example, like
Right.
under
So you
see
bridge
how
it
the
with
base
the
is same,
30
under
and then the
I can see
120
how the
is
base
the
same.
GMT.
Like
So
So,
getting
you
someone
you
to
take 30
look
because
like
they
an
can find that
exemplar
from the
of an
table.
yes, very.
Oh no, that's different. That's not in the
So
table.
then eventually
So
you're
30
gonna
calendars
get
are
them to
sold.
make this brochure.
You're asking them to essentially double
Like, come to the
this
land,
data
it's
from
about-
15.
and we'll show you our
Pretty
rules.
important.
Right.
Exponents at
And I-
Explore.
Well, I
I
wanna
mean,
go
do you think it
there.
would be an effective
Yeah,
question
that's
because
good.
we've talked about the connection between comparing
Do
ratios
you keep their
and
work,
how we
or
can
do they
compare
take it, or
fractions.
I
do they
want
put it in a
kids to be
notebook?
able to
It
Visually
depends
comparing
on if it is
articulate.
We're able to do
independent
that.
or
So I wonder
if I've totally
Okay,
got
we're gonna
one.
finish up
if
early.
asking them something like,
10 seconds.
set both these ratios up like a fraction.
Yeah.
Which part of the fraction
matters
would
how
be
many
blank?
out as a
Yeah.
tracker.
Like,
And we don't know.
Because you can give it back to them,
Is
like,
really
you could
important.
That's
use
good,
these
right.
Because from back to them.
So building an understanding of why we even want to use
So
It's
they
just
can
this.
make their Fargo Shore.
Yes.
Yeah.
decent knowledge of
Yeah.
this from
Yeah.
last year.
'Cause I mean,
That's a good idea.
we haven't talked about using cross products
Okay.
with fraction.
All right, we are going to take a moment to share. How did this process of collaborating or talking to someone, that Saxony and I talk, but not all that often, but who you might not talk with as often, about your teaching, improve or evolve your lessons, and how did the guidelines help?
Certainly just getting a chance to explain it to another person out loud helps. To check to make sure that what you would say is clear in front of your students. So I think, so that's definitely helpful. I wish I had a little more time to try and revise my thinking about what I was trying to get across.
Yeah, I definitely agree on the more time, Anthony. I didn't get to the key math that we actually want to state. And I think that's my next step, is to decide the key math statement.
I think the guidelines are good to focus your thinking. I think sometimes it's tough to focus on exactly, you only have so much time, so what do you need the students to be able to say at the end of the brief? And it was nice to get a 6-8. We're talking about percents, and obviously 6th grade percents is big, so getting a perspective of a 6th grade teacher was nice.
Yeah, I would say similar to what was said about the key math, that it's really asking is this effectively guiding them into the key math, and just noticing that in the lesson plan I'm not stating that concise language economic with the economy of language key math. I think that's a good thing to include in the lesson plan of what's the clearest way I want to state at the end of this, when all is said and done, no matter what else has happened, what's the clearest way that I want to say this key math.
That's the same thing that I really struggle with. It's but there's this and there's this. Just getting a concise statement.
Did you feel like our discussion helped you with
Right.
concision?
Yes, absolutely. There are rules to follow. I don't know.
We were talking about the rules of
math.
exponents, so
The rules,
so
right. Okay.
So there was more to it, right? There was when you're operating with exponential expressions, there are specific rules you follow. Yeah.
And stopping there with the key math instead of keep going.
Going on.
Those are some tough.
Cool. So that's good. Did anybody nobody got to predicting any misconceptions or selecting student work? Yeah, sort of. Okay.
We didn't get to the key math, but we got to that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anthony's looking for an exemplar. I'm telling students not to subtract 1 from the numerator and denominator to simplify a fraction.
Cool. All right. So, I'll be really interested. I'll send an email out later. I'm really interested to find out if you guys liked doing this and why. Just because it's something a little bit different than we've done before. So, other items of business. Listen really carefully to these. Interim grading is happening this afternoon. So you want to make sure that any modifications, people that were pulled, that you get those tests back so that you can bring them to grading. Anthony is going to be the point person. He's going to have the correction rubrics. He will also have a box of cookies. Trackers need to be filled in and then emailed to Eleni by 4 today. I think it's going to be enough time to do it if everybody helps each other out when you're done correcting your own work. The idea is that we're staying here as a team until everybody's tests are corrected. I'm really disappointed that I can't be here to grade with you guys, but I have unit planning. Break work needs to be in on Friday. I'm going to reiterate that. I know that Christina's let you guys know, lead teachers might have let you guys know, but make sure that it's in on Friday, because otherwise we're going to have a copy machine disaster. And let me know if you need resources, because I have a lot.
Are we emailing for that? Are we emailing someone or just turning it in?
You're also emailing it to Zach McGaw
Yeah.
so that he can put it on the website. And then Saxony or Darren, the two of you need to decide who's on Baked Goods Patrol for next week. You can do it on your own time, duke it out. For next week, we're going to be videotaping the lessons that you worked on today. And so email me your Monday lessons and I will come in to tape on Monday. Can somebody summarize for us what we did today at our meeting? What was like the key point of our meeting?
We really clarified like what the components of a good debrief.
And we applied those points to an actual plan. And so what things in our plan we're doing well and what we need to fix to make sure that we're doing those effective things.
Yeah, and I like how we like separated it into like this is what you're thinking about when you're planning, this is what you're thinking about when you're teaching, and then this is what you're going to start thinking about.
Can we like take a picture of that or something?
Yeah, I really need someone to take a picture. Oh, thanks, Kate. All right. Thank you, everybody.
What time does next period start?
It starts at 12:10, I believe.
Okay, cool.
So I will come pick up your kids. Kate,
Yeah.
would you be willing to turn off the?
You have tests.
I have the test.